January is the month most gardeners underestimate, and that mistake costs them a huge amount of spring harvest. Before we get into it, make sure you're subscribed to Evergreen Garden and, drop a comment below telling me what you're growing this year, because what I'm about to share can radically change how productive your soil becomes by spring. January isn't dead time, it's preparation time. And the cover crop I'm about to talk about has quietly tripled spring yields for gardeners who know how to use it correctly. Why January quietly determines your spring harvest success. By January, the soil is either being robbed or restored. Bare ground is losing nutrients every time it rains, microorganisms are starving, and compaction is slowly tightening its grip. Serious gardeners know that spring success is not built in March or April. It's built when nothing seems to be happening. January is when you decide whether your beds wake up hungry or bursting with life. The unsung hero here is a cover crop that thrives in cool conditions, works fast, and sets up explosive growth later. The cover crop that changes everything is winter peas. Winter peas, sometimes called Austrian winter peas, are one of the most powerful January cover crops you can plant. They are cold-tolerant, fast-growing, and nitrogen-fixing, meaning they pull nitrogen from the air and store it in the soil where your spring crops can access it. Unlike many cover crops that take months to break down, winter peas decompose quickly, feeding soil microbes almost immediately once terminated. This is one of the reasons gardeners see dramatic yield increases when they use them correctly. How winter peas rebuild soil biology instead of just feeding plants. Winter peas don't just add nutrients, they rebuild the soil food web. Their roots release sugars that feed beneficial bacteria and fungi during the cold months when soil life would otherwise slow down. This keeps microbial populations active so that when temperatures rise, your soil is already biologically charged. Healthy microbes unlock phosphorus, stabilize nitrogen, and improve water retention. Gardeners who rely only on compost often miss this step, which is why cover crops outperform compost alone in long-term fertility. When and how to plant winter peas in January. If your ground isn't frozen solid, January planting still works remarkably well. Just broadcast winter pea seed directly onto prepared soil at a rate of about 1 pound per 1,000 square feet. Then lightly rake the seed in so it sits about 1 inch deep, and water thoroughly. In colder regions, growth will be slow above ground, but root development will continue below the surface. That underground activity is where the real magic happens. If you're working with raised beds, a 1/4 pound of seed covers roughly 4 standard 4x8 beds. Using winter peas alongside other cover crops for maximum effect, winter peas shine even brighter when paired with cereal rye or oats. The ideal ratio is about 60% winter peas to 40% grain by seed weight. The grain provides structure and carbon, while the peas supply nitrogen. This balance prevents nitrogen loss and improves decomposition timing in spring. For example, mixing 12 ounces of winter peas with 8 ounces of rye seed per 1,000 square feet creates a cover that protects soil, feeds microbes, and breaks down cleanly when cut. How and when to terminate winter peas before spring planting. Timing termination correctly is critical. About 3 weeks before planting spring crops, cut the winter peas at ground level while they are still green and tender. Do not let them flower if your goal is quick nutrient release. Leave the cut material on the surface as mulch or lightly incorporate it into the top 2 inches of soil. This green material releases nitrogen rapidly, often equivalent to applying a high-quality organic fertilizer. Gardeners routinely measure an additional 40 to 90 pounds of available nitrogen per acre from winter peas alone. Let's look at some real examples of yield increases from using winter peas. Gardeners who plant winter peas in January, they consistently report stronger transplants, darker foliage, and noticeably faster early growth. Tomato beds that follow winter peas often show yields that are, well, 20 to 30% higher compared to beds left bare over winter. Leafy greens tend to mature faster and handle stress much better too. In one practical example, a gardener growing bush beans after winter peas actually harvested nearly 3 times the yield compared to the previous season when there was no cover crop at all, simply because the soil nitrogen and microbial activity were already primed and ready. Now let's go over some common mistakes gardeners make with winter peas. One major mistake is planting too densely. Overcrowding, honestly, leads to weak plants and poor root development. Another frequent error is tilling too deeply when you're terminating the peas, which, unfortunately, disrupts fungal networks and releases nitrogen far too quickly. Instead, shallow incorporation or just surface mulching helps preserve that all-important soil structure. And some gardeners also skip watering in winter, assuming the rain will be enough. Even cold season cover crops benefit from consistent moisture, especially if you're working with raised beds. So, why do winter peas outperform fertilizers in the long run? Well, fertilizers only feed your plants temporarily. Winter peas, on the other hand, build systems. They improve soil aggregation, increase organic matter, and really create resilience against drought and nutrient loss. Over several seasons, gardeners start to notice fewer pest issues and much more consistent harvests. And this isn't just theory. Honestly, it's observable, repeatable, and proven across all sorts of climates. Once you start using winter peas in January, it's honestly hard to imagine leaving your soil bare ever again. January doesn't have to be a waiting month. In fact, it can be the month that sets up your biggest harvest yet. If you found this guide useful, go ahead and subscribe to Evergreen Garden for more deep, practical gardening knowledge. Share this with a fellow gardener who's really serious about soil, and leave a comment telling me if you've used cover crops before, or if this will be your very first season trying them.